right, we should be live here. Welcome back to This Is Your Mind on AI. My name is Chris Mercer. Everybody calls me Mercer. You are invited to as well. And today, I want to address a couple things. One, community is starting to grow. Thank you so much. One really cool thing is I've actually done this with another YouTube channel, kind of in preparation for this one. And that YouTube channel has been around a lot longer and has half the number of subscribers right now than this one. And that's because of what I did back then. That kind of it's proven to me that this is going the direction I need to go. Now, those of you in the community are kind of in our friends and family experience right now because you've been personally invited by somebody, probably. It's unlikely at this point that YouTube algorithm is starting to get people in, though that'll start to happen. And we're going to have to be a different channel as that starts to happen. But we got to grow into that. Right now is everybody that's in this community is helping to guide this channel. So the content that I'm going to be creating, including live streams like this, are going to be focused on a wide variety of topics. Today, we are talking about making soft pretzels with AI. But I'm going to be showing you the same thing every single time, which is how to use AI in a very specific way, something I call latent experience prompting, but in a very specific way that just is more useful when using AI, so you get better responses from it, right? So I'm going to show you the same kind of trick over and over again, but I'm going to do it in 1,000 different ways as these videos goes on, which means I need to know what you want to experience. So I wanted to do pretzels because I want pretzels, and this actually happens. I'm going to talk about, kind of give you the story of it, and then we're going to evolve it. And I'm going to show you that and how to kind of use AI in this way to do that, so that you can maybe experience soft pretzels too. But if you're trying to cook a certain thing or get yourself to do something you kind of know that you've always wanted to try, but something's always held you back, put that in there. Put this in the community, leave a post. If you happen to come across one of these live streams and you're kind of like, maybe this one, and you're kind of like, I don't even know what this thing's about, just pop a comment in there. Say you hate it and that you wish we had done this. That's fine. All we need is the feedback. And that's the part of this that is super important, because what we are doing is we're planting a seed of a community. That means everybody that comes in, not everyone's going to stay, right? Some people coming in just with some interest, and they will find that they're not as interested, and that's okay. But for those of you that are here and like, okay, maybe it's not directly a fit for you, but there's something that might be a fit for you, and you can kind of sense that maybe that's there. I promise you it is. You just have to ask for it. So leave comments, pop it in the community as posts. Those of you that know me, reach out to me, but and you can actually email us too at thisisyourmindonai.com, but that's the slowest way to do it because I really don't check that email often. But I would rather it see public in the community, the YouTube community, the YouTube channels, the comments, things like that, for This Is Mind on AI, because then everybody else sees that it's happening. And that's the point. When everybody starts to do that, everybody else starts to do it. So that's what we want to model for each other, how to have a better experience with AI by literally you guiding the experience. That is why it is important to participate here. And thank you for those of you who are leaving the comments, because you are giving that feedback, which is awesome. And that's what we're wanting. So that's why, in fact, we started with the Lego Builder, because, Tabitha wanted the Lego Builder. So now we've got that Lego Builder gem, which is awesome. We just recently created the Boomer Buddy gem. But ironically enough, I actually did that in the longest live stream that was never going to be watched by boomers. So they never know that exists. And nothing against boomers. We're just trying to make a little more useful version of this experience for you. So you can use that and craft that. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and pop up one thing, just make sure that everybody knows where we are. So all you need to go is This Is Your Mind, if I can spell it, on AI.com. So when you do that, it'll take you to whatever it takes you to. Right now, it's taking you to a Google Doc. And then all this does is you can go to the YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe there, you can. But right here is the links to the gems. So this is the one for the Lego builders. So if you're a Lego builder and you got an idea, I would totally use this gem. It seems awesome from the feedback we've gotten so far. And then, of course, leave feedback on it. So you can do that. There's a Lego video that we did. So you can just leave feedback there. If you want it adjusted, we'll adjust this experience for you. There's the Boomer Buddy gem. So that's just for those of you who are newer to AI, who don't really want to learn something called latent experience prompting, but you see the benefit of what's happening by somebody who does. And so this is a gem that we created to kind of build it so that you wouldn't have to necessarily know how to do latent experience prompting. The gem knows for you, right? And can kind of help you through some stuff. So that's kind of that idea. My mom is currently actually using that. So she's a great beta tester for it. Already gotten some cool feedback that I hope she puts in the community, because she keeps texting me and showing me all the cool stuff that she is creating that she needs to put in the YouTube community so that you see it too. because it is impressive. It is something I don't know how to do, which is awesome. She's already showing stuff that I don't know how to do. It's just incredible. And that's the point, is to share it in public so that everybody else sees what's going on. Too often, we are sharing our wins and our successes behind the scenes. And I don't mean the people that you see on social media. Most of them that are sharing this on social media have manufactured a reason to do that. And they're not actually winning. They're not actually experiencing winning. They're experiencing desperate need for connection. And those of you that you can see that sometimes in a message. So this is why we're trying to put all of this stuff here so that you can see all of that. Okay, so anyway, with that, there's the links for everything. Anything you've got that you want something to be a gem that you want created, just pop it in there as an idea. I can't promise you're going to do it, but I can promise that if it is something that is useful for the community, we absolutely will, because why wouldn't we? So, all right, with that, I'm going to flip over. So now we've got that in mind. And I wanted to catch you up on something. Now, this is a slightly different account that I have. This is actually a paid account. It's not important that you have a paid account. I'm just using the one that I use for our business, because I have another community called automatedwith.tech, which is really going to be kind of showing, building a community of builders back there. People that really do want to use latent experience prompting. It is for the AI builders who understand what's going on and want to sort of collaborate back and really jump into the machinery of this to help the rest of us have better experiences, right? So I'll be back there building stuff, and everybody else that does, probably through this channel, kind of get an idea of what's going on and they want to start playing with stuff. That's where you do it, right? That's not going to be for everybody. Most of you here are going to watch some things and be like, that's really cool. I can probably do that with my AI, which is true. And that's all you need to do, which is awesome. You don't need to join that community. The whole point of this is, in that community, I was showing kind of in the early stages as I was developing this latent experience prompting method. And this is one of those conversations. I've already shown stuff like this. We actually did on this channel, the Lego Builder video, our very first live stream, was kind of using this technique. But I wanted to walk you through this because what the challenge, the thing that I personally wanted, I'll cut off screen for a second, the thing that I personally wanted was a soft pretzel. Honestly, I wanted the experience of a soft pretzel. And I was very tired of thinking to myself, why do people charge $7 or $8 for soft pretzels? And I could go to the grocery store and get a bag of frozen soft pretzels or a box of frozen soft pretzels, but then they're just heated up frozen soft pretzels. And that just didn't seem like the experience that I wanted. I wanted to experience something kind of different, but the same, right? And for me, it was that experience of baking, which I honestly haven't done in probably like 30 years, at least not in any real scale. Not to say I maybe haven't done like a cake mix, but I honestly don't think I've done that. Maybe waffles, but I don't think that counts as baking. So I really wanted to do that, but I've been wanting to do that for a long time. And maybe that's like you, where you've got something in the back of your head that you've someday maybe'd forever. And you know your life would be better. You know you would have a cool experience. You know this, but you can't get yourself to do it because there's always a reason not to, right? And it's been like for me with something as stupid as soft pretzels. So the challenge was, how can I use AI to get myself to actually bake something that I know I want to do, but haven't done? So it wasn't necessarily knowledge. Could I go to Google a recipe for soft pretzels? 1,000%. But that's not what I needed. I knew how to make a soft pretzel. I knew how to bake a soft pretzel. I knew skills and knowledge to do it. I just didn't have the experience required to actually do it. And that's what this conversation was. So it got me to actually do it. I will show you what they look like. And then this was kind of a fun little accident. I didn't think I was going to do it again for a while because I also didn't want to eat a whole bunch of soft pretzels because I've actually been losing some weight recently, which has been great, just happening on its own, which has been awesome. But I thought eating soft pretzels all week would probably change that because they were really good. And we went through a bunch of them. Actually, we ate them all. But here's the funny part. They were so good that my wife actually was like, hey, so when are you doing those pretzels again? And I thought, okay, well, let's level up the experience. Let's see if we can do that. So I'm going to catch everybody up on how I created the initial recipe and the initial experience. I will show you the results. So you actually see a picture of it and what they all look like. Again, keep in mind, first round. And then we're going to give feedback to the AI, and we're going to continue the conversation in this conversation, which is why I have to use this one because that's kind of where it started. And we're going to continue the conversation as I have the AI evolve a second pretzel baking experience, which of course I will do more than likely sometime this week. And then of course I'll report back and all that fun stuff. But just to kind of show you some cool things you can do with AI. All right, so here's how I did it. I'm going to expand this out because all I did was, and there are videos over at automatedwith.tech for those of you that care, in the YouTube channel there's a live stream that shows all this. But I did this live, and I basically do the same thing I'm doing here, where you just sort of hit the mic button and I talk it through. And I basically said, hey, listen, I'm from Philadelphia. Philly's kind of known for their soft pretzels. I'm not really a good baker. I don't really have any baking skills, at least not anymore. I know the basics. That's probably about it. Back in my day, they taught it in home ec. They don't even do that anymore. But that's about all I really know. Some experience, but not a lot. And so, but I also like the German style soft pretzels, right? Because I've seen that. Maybe it's because I got some German heritage. It's like, maybe it's that. I have no idea. And what I'm doing is I'm rambling through this quite purposefully, because what I'm doing, right? So here, I don't want to have to eat a bunch of soft pretzels, then feel guilty that I'm just bloating myself with all this unhealthy soft pretzel. But at the same time, I really want to experience a soft pretzel. It's me going through like, hey, I know they're not the healthiest thing, but I kind of want this and that and the other thing. Here's all this stuff. So I'm going through over and over again, and I'm explaining, I don't really want to feel guilty eating it. It's a snack. It's really kind of a healthy snack. So as you go through, experience, yada, yada, yada. I've shown this technique a bunch. I'm not gonna. I'll continue to show it as the rest of this conversation goes. I just want to show you this is how it started. I was already kind of describing the current state of where I was experiencing this challenge going through that I had, right? And I want to obviously experience the solution of actually baking the soft pretzel. So then it goes, okay, I can totally help you. Here's what it is. Here's the Austin, Philly Bavarian style pretzel, a healthy-ish homage, which I loved that it was doing a healthy-ish. So it's all right, here's the crust, there's the crumb, there's the flavor, here's the health conscious angle. I'm like, all right, so then it gives me a recipe. Now, could I have done this with Google? 1,000%. But I wasn't looking just for a recipe at this point. What I'm looking for is an experience. And of course, I need ingredients. That's necessary, but that's just a piece. So I kind of knew it was going to do this, which is great. Then I come through and it gives me the experience, right? It says, oh, here's your step-by-step instructions for the experience. Now, read this along with me. In the bowl of a stand mixer, a large mixing bowl, pour in the warm water. It should feel like a warm bath, not hot. Decent. Sprinkle the yeast over the water, then add the maple syrup or honey. Give it a gentle whisk. Decent. I get that. I get what that is, but that's not an experience. Those are instructions. They are a description of the actual experience, right? They're a description of the experience. So at this point, this is fine because that's what happens. I needed to do this. And then what happened is I said, okay, appreciate all of that. This is excellent. Thank you for the notes. Oh, this is also something, just for those of you to dispel the myth, because it's been out forever, there's always been a thing of like the water in Philly is different or the water in New York is different. And turns out AI doesn't agree. The pH mineral content can subtly affect bread dough, but for a home baker, it's probably negligible. So commercially, sure. Home bakers, probably not. Anyway, I don't have to worry about the water anymore. So this excellent. So basically I came back and I said, hey, listen, what you gave me was great. Thanks for the notes on the water. It makes sense. I get all that. So let's not talk about the water anymore because I didn't want it to derail and continue the experience about the water. That's why I gave it that feedback. That was very purposeful. It's a way of me operating the AI to say, cool, done with water. Let's move on to this other thing, right? But I was curious at the time because you never know. So then I said, okay, what I want to do is actually experience this recipe as it's experienced by AI, right? Now, of course, I know, and I'm making sure you know, AI does not experience. It processes, right? But I have to use that word experience because if I say process, it will cause a different thing to happen in the LLM. I need it to use the word experience, and I need it to process using that word because it links it to everything in its database around soft pretzels that might be highly useful for this specific conversation. That's kind of why we're doing this. So it went through and I said, hey, can you rewrite this recipe in such a way that I'm actually going through it as a true experience of the recipe? Why is this important for you? This is why you want AI to change its tone and give you results in this format. It is so that I have the actual understanding and the experience that I'm likely to need. So I can actually go through and follow through with it because I don't need more information about how to make a soft pretzel. That is on demand with Google. I can do that anyway. You could do that, but I still don't make soft pretzels. And that's the problem, right? So I need to get into the action mode of things and think what I'm showing you here. I'm showing you how to use AI to get yourself to take an action that you know you want to take, but you just haven't been able to take yet. I'm doing it with pretzels as an example, but you can do it with anything using this exact same technique. So what I basically did is when it came back, right, I asked it to sort of experience it and change the tone. Same recipe, different tone of the experience. So then I have an experiential pretzel journey. Now, listen to what this one's like. All right, awaken the dough, right? So it's like, okay, first it's the mindset. This is super important, by the way. Because I am a new baker, this may not be the experience that an experienced baker finds useful because they don't need that. They already have the experience that's required. I don't. So I do need to have a conversation around mindset, right? Take a deep breath. You're not just following a recipe, you're crafting a memory. That was uniquely different for me because it caused my brain, and I mean experience when I say that. I have this experience now of going, oh, this is a memory, not a recipe. It's not about being right or doing it correctly. It's about having a memory of this thing that was an experience. Correct or not, it doesn't matter. It will be useful because of that. So now my brain is automatically going like, cool, like no problems. Like even if there are problems, they're not problems. They're just part of the memory that we're crafting, right? It's a completely different set of resources that I now have access to. And again, I'm speaking kind of from a psychological personal development standpoint. I get out of my own way now and can make pretzels because the mindset immediately is covered because AI knew to do that and know that I needed to do it because again, this is my personal experience that I was crafting here for me. And it's also going to be probably a good experience if you're also not very good at baking or don't know how to bake and you happen to want soft pretzels. This probably would be a good experience for you too. For the rest of you, just think about what your version of a soft pretzel might be. And if you're not sure how you would do it, pop it in the community, pop a comment in this video and say, okay, well, how would you do it with this? Or how would you do it with that? And I will show you because you can. All right, so again, it has to be useful for the rest of the community too. I don't want to do just kind of one-offs. I want to make sure it's useful for more people. And I'm hoping that somebody here likes to bake in some way because you can do it, pretzels, cakes, cookies, whatever. But it says your first pretzel might look a little funny. That's its personality. Wait till you see what the first pretzel was like because I remembered this phrase. I literally was doing it. As I'm doing it, I experienced that again going, yep, I remember this part. This is where you just have personality pretzels. And I didn't even know where I got it from. I didn't remember exactly. I read it here, but that's where I got it from because I already had the experience in my head because I had gone through this. Now, read through the entire guide, gather the ingredients, have them laid out on the counter. This is exactly what I did, by the way. I just little mise en place, or whatever that is in French. So I guess everything in its place is probably what that means. But that was very true. I made it so much easier. It was so freaking organized. I cleaned as I went and it all happened naturally. Which is not my normal experience of baking stuff. Normally there's just a big thing of dishes that's everywhere and stuff is crazy and I'm thinking I will never do this again. But that is not what happened because of how this was experienced. So step one, awaken the dough, right? Action, large bowl, pour 1.5 cups warm water. Now, this is different. Test the water on your wrist, right? Those of you with babies know what's about to happen here. It shouldn't be hot or cold. You're looking for a gentle, pleasant warmth of a baby's bath because this is how you test a bottle. And so when AI was coming through in its database, it made the connection between this, let me just show you, because this is not helpful, but is technically correct. And this is an example of technically correct, but not useful. 1.5 cups, 360 milliliters, warm water, about 110 degrees Fahrenheit at 43 degrees Celsius. Oh, that's great. I always have a thermometer in my pocket to test water. Who has that? What beginner baker has that? None. Because who thinks about that? No one except professional bakers who need consistency because they're baking at scale. But home bakers don't. They just need it about right because they're a home baker. It's a different experience. So we can't buy recipe books that the professionals are out there making and then expect it to be professional. It's never going to work. So this is why when AI came back and said, all right, here's what we're going to do. Let me get through to our correct one here. So when it came through and said, okay, pleasant water of a baby's bath, it's a perfect temperature to gently wake up the yeast without scaring it away. I knew what to experience. I knew I had the right temperature. It just was intuitive. It wasn't something I had to think about. It was something I could experience in the back of my head. Like I just knew it was there. I was like, yep, this is exactly right. Then it was the yeast, the action stuff, the drizzling a teaspoon, 1 or 2 gentle stirs with a fork. Did that exactly. Definitely experienced this. It was murky and uninteresting. And I did see it and I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Then there was this moment where I came back and then I saw it actually coming alive, which is a really cool experience if you've never done that before. And I know those of you who are bakers are like, dude, it's just yeast and water. But when you're beginning, it's pretty cool to see the yeast pop at the way it blooms and does that. It's a weird thing. And it literally smelled like that, the earthy, bready smell. And then it was like smell of life and your first win. So now AI has given me this recipe as an experience. Now remember, at this point, I was not baking. This is the point of me on the live stream reading through it going, man, this is going to be amazing because that's my first success. And that seems pretty easy. I just got to put a package of yeast in some water and I got to make sure the water is like warm water on my wrist. And then I just got to leave it alone for 5 or 10 minutes after stirring it with a fork. I think I can bake if that's all it takes, right? So I'm getting there. I literally felt the joint. I experienced this. It was great. So Then there was the dough, et cetera, et cetera. So I came through and it did all of this. It helped me with everything, including the kneading and everything else. Now, a couple of things as I was going through the experience that came up was one, so my wife was watching me kind of going like, all right, where's this going? And here, by the way, you might want to sift the flour and all that sort of stuff. So there were some things in there that weren't included in AI that my wife was able to sort of just, hey, maybe try this stuff. So I did some of that, nothing major. But I did do this where I was like, hey, could you give me, because I go to HEB, I'm in Texas. HEB's awesome. And it gave me a little list. Here's everything you need to get, which was great. So I just go there and get my little laundry list. Technically, because it's a Google account, it puts it in Google Keep, which is nice. But then as this comment was when I was actually baking. So I have the laptop on my countertop and I'm actually baking stuff. And my wife's setting up the KitchenAid and everything. And I don't know that we have a dough hook. And that's what the ingredients we're talking about. It's talking about a dough hook. So I specifically said, like, okay, here's our KitchenAid thing that we have, which, by the way, again, I'm not a baker. We bought a long time ago, and it was very dusty. Let me just say we have not used that thing in forever. So I cleaned it all up and did all of that, and maybe this attachment is somewhere, who knows. But I found this thing that we were putting in there that I thought was like dough hook-ish. Like, sure, it'll work. And I promise you, I would have tried it had I not asked this. But my wife was smart and she's like, well, why don't we ask AI? So we did in this conversation. And all I need to do is just, at this point, it's already kind of experiencing for me. Now, this is days later, right? But I'm opening the same conversation. It's already set up in the right direction. So you can kind of just talk to it like normal AI, like maybe you're normally doing anyway. But it happens later in the conversation because I've already set it up to be an experience. So here it's, okay, what's the dough? How to use this KitchenAid Professional? Not using a dough hook. And this came back with, do not do what you think you're about to do. You're trying to use a standard flat beater and you're going to damage your mixer. In which case, I realized I had just cleaned the mixer for nothing because I was going to do this by hand because I didn't feel like looking for a dough hook. But I just skipped all that and I just kneaded it. That was it, which also had instructions because back in the experience here, this recipe, it had talked about kneading it and putting it, here's the experience of rolling things out. Here's what kneading is going to feel like, as you're going through. So the kneading experience right in there. So it was like, as the mixer works or as you knead, you're going to physically feel the dough transform. It should go from sticky to smooth, elastic, supple ball. Kind of did. I was waiting for that. Now, if I'm an experienced baker, I know to be ready for that. But if you have no experience baking and no one tells you to get ready to experience that, you will miss the signal because you don't know to look for it. And that's why this works so well. So I'm trying to point out all the different reasons why this experience-based sort of AI response is substantially more useful for you because it's more useful for your brain. It will take you less energy to get more done and it's a hell of a lot more fun. So now we're going through. Now I want to go ahead and we're going to celebrate a little bit. So I'm going to tell it a couple of things. So first I'm just going to give it our little celebration. Here's a photo of the pretzels. How do you experience this photo? What worked? What didn't? What's next? I'm doing this kind of live here at this point because we don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to add from Google Drive here. I've already added my photo. There we are. So I'm inserting my photo. So this was me literally just being like, hey, thumbs up, pretzels. Thanks to my wife again for taking that photo. So this is it. I'm just going to give it feedback that shows successful result experience achieved. That is what I'm doing right now. I could also say experience achieved, and it would kind of do the same thing. What I'm trying to get the AI to do is to give it feedback in a visual format. And what I'm very curious, because I don't know if it will do this or not, I want to see if it goes through and breaks down those pretzels and starts looking at it and goes, well, this is what it should have more been like this. And see how much it rewards me for like, yay, you, right? And so I want to kind of see where that balance is. That's not particularly because I care what it says, though that's going to be useful too, I hope, as an experience. But we'll see. So the pretzels, how do you experience the photo? What worked? It did. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and see that is all in there. Let's see what it does. Now remember, the whole point of this is just as a setup. I'm just trying to see kind of what it does. By the way, I'll pull up that photo here. There we go. Nope, that didn't work. Did it work? Nope, it's not. All right, thought maybe that would work. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. Okay, right in here, this one was number 1. This one was number 2. This was number 3, 4, 5, 6. By here, I started getting it down. And the reason there's not 8, because technically it's made 8, is because I also realized as you are rolling this stuff that dough will break. And if you're over your floor in the kitchen, it will fall on the floor and end up in the trash, which is what that one did. So I learned one, I only had to sacrifice one. But by the time I was starting to get to a point where I'm like, okay, I can roll with some pretzel people now. So we'll see. Now, let's see what AI says. All right, of course it thinks it's fantastic. Remember, that's the first paragraph, is it's going to tell you you're awesome because that's what they program it to do. That's okay. We just sort of ignore it. Now it went, here, what we can level up for next time, which is good because that's the whole point of this. This is what I was looking for, is will it help us now? Okay, here's how to do the next version of this even better, because I really want to experience that. Why experience the same one? Let's experience a different one. So honestly, I experienced pure joy and success, as it should. Look at my face. I was very happy. Smile as someone who set out to do something, took on a challenge, and created something with their own 2 hands. Heck yeah, I did. That thumbs up says it all. You didn't just bake pretzels, you successfully created the experience you were looking for. And if I can do it with pretzels, I can do it with anything. I promise you. So can you. And this is kind of what this whole idea of this channel is for, is to help us to have these different experiences. So, okay, so enough about the photo. What worked? A, you figured it out, which is great, with a tray of beautiful fresh salt-baked pretzels, massive accomplishment, which was cool. Excellent rise. Okay, I didn't know they even think about that. So the pretzels did great volume. They aren't flat. They puffed up beautifully in the oven, which is true. It tells me your yeast was happy. That's good. Because I had to go through the whole proofing thing, and I wasn't sure. There were some steps I raised, but I'm going to give it some feedback in a second, so I'll give you that too. The pretzel on the far right is a classic, which is true. And the other ones, you can see the shapes, while the others have a wonderful rustic handmade charm, which is a nice way of saying I learned how to make pretzel buns at the same time. But sometimes that's going to be useful too. I like the idea of having pretzel buns for maybe hamburgers I'll do. So, all right. The blistering, I can see little blisters on the crust of the pretzels. Fantastic sign. Tells me the baking soda bath did its job, which again, I didn't know was a thing ever. And that was cool. And started creating the authentic pretzel skin. By the way, just in case anybody goes through baking soda baths, one thing that I felt very, very useful here is when it was given this alkaline bath, and I was doing this, this is very important. So the adding baking soda to boiling water can go horribly wrong if I had just dumped it all in there, and without the proper experience, which again, this gave me, it sort of prepped me with all the experience I would need so I would be less likely to make mistakes like that, because it does bubble up quite distinctly. But it is a very cool experience. All right, so let's go back. All right. Let's go into here we go. Did it, excellent rise, blistering. All right, so here's what we could do. The color, I knew I was going to get graded on the color. It's golden, not mahogany. Pretzels are good golden brown. They were still good, like a good dinner roll. Good. The goal for a true pretzel is deep, dark, shiny mahogany brown. That deep colors are the signature tangy pretzel flavor lives. You are right on the edge of achieving it. There were blowouts on a few of the pretzels. You can see where they cracked or burst open on the sides, which it did. This is awesome for me because now I know. I honestly thought I might have to crop that photo and zoom in on pretzels. Not necessary with AI. Yay, AI. It literally went through every pretzel. It could see the difference in the shape of each pretzel. It knows which ones kind of burst a little bit incorrectly. That is fascinating for me. So now, okay, cool. It's incredibly common. It's what happens when the dough expands rapidly in the hot oven, called oven spring. Cool. Didn't know that was a thing. Those of you who are bakers might. And burst through the weakest point of the crust. Okay, I did not know that. So Pretzel Quest 2.0. Yay. There's worse ways to spend a life than making pretzels, I guess. All right, so 2 adjustments, take it from 90% to the 100%. 1, be brave with the break. I'm gonna give it some. I'm gonna tell you why that happened, because there's a reason why that happened. Almost the main reason, lighter color. I know it feels wrong, but you need to leave in the oven longer. Probably saw them turn golden brown and thought they're done. For pretzels, this is the halfway point. Next time, let them go into 3 to 5 minutes past this stage. Okay, that's good to know. Keep your eye on them as you'll see the transform golden to deeper amber, then to that rich dark brown. Trust the process. Trust the process. All right, I have to have courage. It's cool. So now I have that experience. And I'm trying to emphasize what just happened. I now have the experience of how I am literally going to make better pretzels already, but I have not actually done that yet. But I have the experience of it. So now I understand that when I see that next time, I'm going to experience that color very differently and be like, cool, 5 more minutes. Whereas in before, what was happening is when I was experiencing that color, I was like, man, this has been in here too long. It's only this color. And I'm not sure that this is something that I should keep in here any longer. And I was like, well, maybe another minute. Well, maybe 30 more seconds. And those of you who have done any sort of baking like that, when you keep checking the oven too many times, you're going to pull it out. And that's what happened, right? But again, for a reason, I'll talk about that in a moment. Power of the egg wash. Did you use egg wash? I did, but clearly didn't seem to pop up there. And then the short rest after shaping to prevent those blowouts. Try a simple trick. After you shape the pretzels, lay them on the baking sheet. Let them sit for 10 to 15 minutes before they go into the water bath. I did not do that. Okay, but I did something different that may have been worse. So we're gonna find out. All right. And I did have some spicy brown mustards. So that was fine. Okay, so here's gonna be my feedback, and then we're gonna go from there. So now I'm gonna give it the feedback of my actual experience, and what I am doing is I'm taking my data, right? This is the human biological technology that is now connecting with the mechanical technology of the AI here, of AI. And I'm communicating what my experience, my actual real world experience is, and I'm gonna give it to that AI so it also now has that experience. Then I'm gonna ask it to kind of combine everything, look around and say, okay, now with all that said, how do we re-experience? So we already know what AI thinks is a challenge and way to go. It's gonna take my feedback, and then it's gonna do it again. And then my wife was kind enough to record some feedback as well. So I'm gonna give a transcript of her feedback. And then we're gonna have our super recipe, our next version of the recipe, written in an experiential format so that I'm able to go through and experience and bake, and we'll try again. All right, so here's where I'm gonna give it my experience. Thank you for this feedback. It is excellent. I wanted to kind of walk through my experience of the recipe as I went, because it might explain some things that happened, some things that you definitely noticed may have been caused by some of the things that I did. And I wanted to sort of show and give some feedback on where the recipe really, really worked well, and where maybe I misinterpreted something, or maybe missed something, or could have had additional information or some additional experience that may have been useful. So that we can constantly evolve this recipe into the most useful version of our pretzel journey experience. So first, the mindset and everything was great. It was really helping me out. I don't necessarily need that again. It was just a really good first step for any beginner baker. As the description and the tone was perfect, letting me know what I should feel, and the actions and what I'll experience. I think all that was perfect. The yeast worked really well in the wake in the dough. I think you noticed that as well. That's why the yeast was so happy. The forming the dough also worked pretty well. I ended up just kneading it by hand. And so I think at this point, I want to just keep kneading by hand for now. So we can just keep it in that. We don't need to worry about a mixer anymore. Because that's not going to be useful. So I just want to use it by hand. It was fine doing that, and I honestly don't mind doing that. And then the rise of the dough. So here's what happened. When I proofed the dough, it worked wonderfully well. I actually did it in the oven with the light on, just like you had suggested. It was perfect. When it proofed, I wasn't sure. So you said like kind of take the air out, but I wasn't sure, like, do I smash it down so all the air's out and it's like flat? Like, do I use a rolling pin to make it that less air, so there's like that little air in there? And so that's why some of the pretzels were different, because some of them I wasn't sure. So I cut them into eight equal parts of the dough, but then I squeezed the air out of some of them entirely, and I left others with some air in them just to see what would happen. And the ones that had air in them are the ones that more look like pretzel buns. The ones that did not have the air in them are the ones that actually ended up looking more like pretzels, like that one on the right that you mentioned. But what was happening with the dough, and I think maybe caused some issues, is I was cutting them, and I wasn't sure how to actually make the pretzel. Do I roll it like rolling it like a pin or like a pencil would on a page, and that's sort of how it goes. And if I do that, it almost like it was starting to tear a little bit. Even it wasn't cooked; it was still at the dough stage, but it would roll kind of smooth. And then as I was continuing to roll it and kind of to stretch it out, which is what I was trying to do, to get a long enough kind of string of dough so I could shape it into the pretzel, because I needed to really stretch it out. And as I was stretching the dough, I noticed it would sort of tear. It looked like it was tearing. And I don't know why that was happening, where to a point it wasn't tearing, and then all of a sudden it started tearing. I hope that makes sense. Again, I'm a beginner baker, so I don't know what's going on there. But if there's something that I can help with, or to do differently so that I can continue to stretch it out, maybe without that tearing, because I think it's those tears is what gave it weakness, and that's maybe why they sort of burst out in that area. That's maybe what you noticed as those little burst throughs, maybe because of that. That's just a guess. I could be totally wrong on that, but that's what happened. Now, the other thing that I did that was different from the recipes, because I had done I hadn't noticed before that you can put pretzels in the freezer, the pretzel dough. You put the pretzel dough in the freezer to cool the pretzels down before they go into that bath, and that's just so I guess they don't cook. So I actually put them in the freezer, and I that may have been a mistake. I don't know if that's useful or not. So it was my attempt to kind of cool them down a little bit. And so again, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But here's the problem: I put them in the freezer in the same tray that I eventually ended up baking them on. So what I did is for 15 minutes, I was putting everything in the freezer, including the tray that they were on. So then I took out the tray. I put one pretzel at a time in the bath, and I went through all the pretzels that were there, in which case there were 7. And then and the only reason there were 7 is because one of them I dropped on the floor. So I'm sorry about that, but I'll have 8 next time. I know what to do now. So then I did each one. And at that point, I just put them right back on the tray. Then I put the tray in the oven because it was preheated to the 425 that it needed to be preheated. But my guess is the tray was so cold that it just took longer than the 8 minutes. So they actually were baking for almost 15 or 20 minutes. And I was starting to become afraid that they were going to be hard, that I had gone past soft pretzel and now I was going to make hard pretzels if I kept them in there too long, because originally the recipe had talked about 8 minutes and it was clearly beyond 8 minutes. So I knew I'd messed something up. And at that point, I was just sort of freestyling. And that's probably why the color wasn't there. I did use an egg yolk wash on them. And I sprinkled some salt and all of that. So that part was there. But I think maybe that's why the color was like that. So that was the sort of stuff that, a couple of bumpy spots from my experience. Otherwise, the taste was incredible. It tasted like a pretzel. It was so cool to have that. And to, I think... I don't know. It's really cool to have that. That was a huge win for me to even have that. Now it's debated. Maybe it's just making it look a little better. And then ideally, I would like a healthier version of this. I actually used honey, which worked really well. So I appreciate that. And we used the bread flour because that was what was suggested for the first time. But I think maybe it would be nice to try something else that will help level it up from a healthiness perspective a little bit, but not so much where it really destroys that whole traditional Bavarian chewiness of a pretzel and everything else that I really want to experience in a pretzel, because they were really, really good. And I have unfortunately had healthy pretzels before and they're gross. And I don't want a gross healthy pretzel. I want a really nice experience of an incredible soft pretzel that is also happens to be healthy. It just happens to be like that because it was sort of built to be like that as an experience. So that's my feedback and what I'm looking for. Could you do me a favor? I obviously have done my best to describe my experience, but I don't know if I've got all the experience in here. So can you go through and actually experience the description of the experience as an experience itself? Then what I would like you to do is to combine it with the experience you currently have, and then let's evolve into what this new recipe is, and then give me that experience of how you imagine that new recipe can be as the experience that I am looking for. All right. So again, experience. I say that word a lot. It is purposeful because it causes the AI to light up in different ways and pull in different contexts that it knows it needs, and I will have no idea how to tell it. So that's why I'm not even trying to. I'm just saying, you figure it out, you figure it out, you figure it out. But I need this, I need this, I need this. I want this experience. So it figures out what the result needs to be to make that experience happen. And then it figures out the how steps that are necessary for that result to make that experience happen. All right. So now we're going to come through static recipe, living, breathing techniques that adapt to real world, blah, blah, blah. Okay. If, by the way, I end up becoming like the pretzel king of Texas, you know where it started. All right. Actually, that would be kind of fun. I just had a really, really awesome idea. I could create a bunch of AI characters that could just sell pretzels to everybody. That might even be a fun little experience to show here. Because I know many of you are like, how do you make money with this? That's a way. All right. I feel the anxiety of watching the clock. Okay. Experience the process, code to be clear. Deflate the dough, logic behind the freezer experiment. Okay. The dawning realization the cold tray was working against you in the oven. That was such a bad mistake. But that's okay. Beginner. I didn't have the experience. I do now. Feel the anxiety of watching the clock. Yes. Fearing you're creating rocks that are pretzels. That was definitely true. I was so paranoid that that's what I was doing. And most importantly, you can feel the immense satisfaction when, despite all those bumps, the taste was there. Yes. That's exactly right. So The reason this is important is not for me to agree with the words, though I do in this case. It's for me to know that it is seeing it, experiencing it, processing it in the same way that I am processing it or experiencing it. It is exactly right. It feels aligned. That's important because I need the man and machine to be connected here. I need to be integrated with AI because I'm operating the AI. And this is how I know that my hands are on the wheel, because it's telling me, yep, the hands are on the wheel. You steered left and I got this. I turned. So this makes sense. All right. So with that, I know that the rest of it should maintain the experience, should be useful. A different recipe now, maybe. 3 cups blend flour. So now, oh, that's interesting. I don't like rye seeds. I wonder if I will like dark rye flour. I'm curious about that. I'm going to ask about that. Fiber, nutrients, steady nutto flavor. Okay, so there's the strong chew. So now it's 3 cups, 1/4 cup dark rye. Actually, I tried that anyway. And then 2 tablespoons of high quality olive oil, avocado oil. Instead of the butter that it used to have. Okay, so that's what's changed. So now we've got a little healthier flour. Everything else is the same except the butter went away. And we're using high quality olive oil or avocado oil. All right, which I'll have to pick some up. The gentle deflation. So the dough, okay, so here's what I do want to kind of see if it helps me understand. Your dough has doubled beautifully in the warm oven. Now turn it into the clear unfloured counter, okay, which I did. Also, unfloured was an important tip that it gave me before. Otherwise, I would have put flour on it because that's what I think you do when you put dough on stuff. Instead of punching or smashing, it's kind of what I did. Gently press down on the dough with the palm of your hand, okay. Large air pockets release, perfect. The goal is not to obliterate every bubble, which is not what I was doing by the end. I was smashing everything out that I could, but to gently degauss the dough so it's manageable, okay? Now divide the dough into 8 equal pieces. For each piece, gently knead into a small, smooth ball. Green uniform texture and the solution to a pretzel bun. Okay, you're telling the dough we're all going to be consistent pretzels now. All right. So then line up your 8 little dough balls on the counter, cover them loosely with a clean kitchen towel, which I did not do at all. It reproofs them a second time. This is the crucial new step. Right now, the gluten in the dough is tense, tight from being divided and shaped. If you were to try to roll it out now, you would resist and tear exactly as you described. That's exactly what happened. Okay, I am gaining experience I did not have before. Yes, it's knowledge, but it's not knowledge in the form of information. It's knowledge in the form of action that I can take. I know how to do this now. I won't make this mistake ever again because I know how it works now, because I'm experiencing it right now, even though I am not actually baking yet. This is so important as a concept. So when I come back, the dough is going to feel noticeably softer, more pliable. It'll be cooperative, not stubborn, just prevent the tearing. All right, so then there's the shaping. Take one of them after I let them rest for a bit, and then I begin rolling it out from the center, which means I'm rolling pin, I guess. The dough is going to stretch easily and willingly. You can roll it into long, smooth rope without any of the frustrating tearing. Focus on keeping the belly thick, which is, I did that part well, and the arms long and thin, so you can kind of twist them. As you twist in the pretzel shape, we'll smooth and strong. Okay, cool. And then parchment paper, which I did. Yep. Okay. So then there's the chill. So then after I've shaped the pretzel, so I shouldn't have those tears at this point, slide it into the freezer 15 minutes, which was a great idea. Technically wasn't my idea. I kind of cheated on it with another AI, another version of Gemini, that I had done this before as an experiment like a week ago, just to kind of see how, when I was early stages of playing with this stuff, actually 2 weeks ago, but it gave me that idea, which I thought was kind of interesting. Chilling the dough helps the pretzels hold their shape perfectly during the alkaline bath. That's cool. Perfect time to bring a pot of water to a boil, which is what I did. Place the second empty baking sheet. Aha. That's what I did not do, and this is what I do next time. So I'm gonna have the one sheet that's in the freezer. The other sheet is in the oven being heated up. So they will bake on the hot one. Perfect. Bring the water to a boil, carefully add the baking soda, reduce the simmer. Each chilled pretzel for 30 seconds, which I did. All that worked really well, by the way. And then 425, empty baking sheet inside, brush the boiled pretzel with egg wash, and sprinkle with salt. Perfect. All that stuff's the same. All right. And this is true. This is a hot launch. So I'm going to hear the faint sizzle. Now this is good because I'm going to hear this faint sizzle of cold parchment hits the hot metal. That might freak me out a little bit, but it's a hot launch. That's just the thing I guess bakers know. By transferring them to a preheated surface, you're delivering an immediate powerful blast of heat to the bottom of the pretzels. This solves the color problem. Perfect. So now I've got that. So then I should have 12 to 15 minutes, but watch them, not the clock. Because of the hot launch, you'll see the browning happening much more efficiently. You'll see them go from pale to golden and then push past that. You will have the confidence to wait for that deep, rich mahogany brown because you'll know the process is working correctly. No fear of making hard pretzels. You will pull the tray out. Okay, perfect. And then I get the rye flour. So it goes rye flour, deep, slightly sour, earthy flavor. That's quintessentially German. Layer of complexity makes the pretzels taste more authentic and interesting. I'm going to try it anyway. I actually don't like rye seeds, but maybe rye flour is okay. We'll find out. At least a little bit like that. All right. That's pretty good. To be honest, I would love to try this. However, my wife also has the same. So here's how we're going to do that. I'm going to attach a transcript that she had. It's called Wife Pretzel Feedback. Now, all we did for this, by the way, is just a recorder app on Google. I happen to have Android stuff, so you hit recorder. It's a little voice recorder. It will make a transcript for you automatically. I just saved that transcript. That's it. So it was exactly what she said. I honestly don't know what she said it. I didn't listen to it and I didn't read it. That was on purpose, not because I didn't care. It was because we're working on this together, right? This is our project, this whole thing. Though she definitely is not on the camera. But it was kind of like, all right, well, let's have her give a little blind feedback to AI and then see what AI does. And I get to see kind of how it reacts now because I don't know what she said. Okay, so here's how I'm going to introduce it. This is excellent and seems like a substantially upgraded experience. I am excited to try this recipe. Before we do that, however, I would like you to go through one additional set of feedback. And this is a transcript that is feedback from my wife. She was incredibly helpful. She was guiding me along the way. She was a part of the process. And she was a taste tester and she was impressed. She thought the pretzels were great. In fact, one of the reasons we're doing this now and that we're having this experience now is because she'd asked for more pretzels. And so that's why we're leveling up the recipe. So we have new pretzels to create. That said, though, I don't know the specific feedback that she gave you. I haven't seen it myself. I haven't experienced it myself. So I need you to go in there and experience my wife's feedback as if it was a description of the experience that she was experiencing. Experience what she is highly likely to be experiencing. And then, of course, we're going to combine it with our combined experience that we now have as we evolve this recipe to other levels that weren't possible before this feedback. So with that, how do you experience my wife's feedback and where do we go from here? All right, so I'm just introducing it, giving it a way to introduce the context of how I would like it to be applied, which is to kind of say, I have no idea what's in here. I kind of want to see some magic is really what I'm asking at. I want you to kind of spin it up into something maybe unique and different based on what is in this feedback. How that happens, I don't know, don't care, and would never know how to ask even if I did. So I needed to sort of figure it out. I'm asking the AI to do a lot of heavy lifting. So let's see how it does. All right. I always love this, by the way. Everything you do is always the missing piece of something. It's always, you're so stellar, or that thing is the missing thing, or it shocks me how often that happens, that they just can't get that bug out. But anyway, experience-wise feedback. Reading translate, loving and incredibly observant kitchen partner. Aw. She's not just a taste tester, she's a collaborator. For the warmth and encouragement of words, very nice, very tasty, which she did say. She told me that they were tasty. They were good, I was very impressed. All right, this is the voice of someone who's genuinely proud and wants to be part of the journey. She does. But more than that, experience a sharp, clear eye of kitchen coach, which she describes how you measure the flour with heaping scoops instead of level ones. All right, she did do that. Okay, so backstory. When you measure flour, I have a big just paper bag of flour that flour comes in, because again, not a baker. Cup, figure it needs 4 cups of flour, so I'm just like, cup of flour, and I just dip it in. And then make sure it's a solid cup of flour, because why else would you not do that? Not a good idea, because fortunately she stopped me from doing that, because I believe when we actually sifted it through the correct way, I actually had like 6 cups of flour that it would have been, and they would have not been good pretzels. So that was important that she did teach me that part, and AI did not. So that was cool. I feel the light bulb moment, a moment of clarity. She saw one crucial detail that explains so much. It's a detail that as a beginner, you would have no reason to know, but her experience caught it. And that's why experience is so important. She has the experience to know that was not good. I did not. And AI did not give me that experience to know that I should not do that. So of course I was just going to do it. And that's exactly what AI is saying here is, I now know to look for things that I missed. There were experiences I should have communicated that I didn't communicate, right? Now, we're using pretzels here as an example. Please don't think this is just for pretzels. This is for anything you want to do. Anything. And challenge me on this by putting it in a comment and saying, okay, what about this? I will make it happen. There was ways to do this stuff, no matter what it is. Okay, so that's great. Now her suggestion, so she's getting into flavors, because she kind of wants some savory pretzels or dessert pretzels. I like the idea of dessert pretzels. What if we try this next? She's not enjoying the results. She's investing in the future of a shared pretzel experience. So maybe we do make a little pretzel company. That'd be kind of cool. Or a pretzel recipe book. Pretzel bots. We could do some cool things. Feedback's a gift. All right, where do we go from here? The great revolution. Wife's observations. Flour measurement is the single most important discovery we've made. An extra cup and a half of flour is a massive difference, which is about what it was. Yeah, so it probably was about 5.5 cups. And it perfectly explains the primary issue you had. The tearing dough mystery is solved. A dough that with that much extra flour would be incredibly stiff and dry. It was tearing because the gluten network was starved for water, had no elasticity, could have been. Some of that. Now, I didn't put in 5.5 cups, so it's misunderstanding her feedback a little bit. She may not have clearly said that she corrected my behavior there, but there may have been more than 4 cups. That is possible. We did correct a lot because I know I put back a cup at least after I found 4 cups. Let's see, the artisan pretzel experience. So now we're in artisan pretzels. So the flour settles and compacts in this bag. Use a fork or a whisk to fluff it up. Okay, that's smart. Spoon. Oh, duh. That's okay. I didn't know that. Use a large spoon. That makes sense. Actually, it does make sense because she did show me that. But now that I'm seeing it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I did. I ended up using the spoon. But that makes sense. Let it mound over the top and then level it off with the back of a knife or a chopstick. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's what I'm going to do then for flour. So then we have some flavored stuff. So we have the savory herb pretzel. And this is cool because now we're just doing, here's your main recipe, your main experience. But if you want this kind of flavor, just piece this out. This little piece here comes out. If you want this little thing, do this little piece different. That's cool because now it's becoming a modular recipe, which is an excellent type of experience. It makes it very easy for somebody to go from, oh my God, I can't bake at all. And you're just sort of at the mercy of life and whatever else goes on because you don't feel like you have any control or anything because you can't even bake a freaking pretzel, to not only can I bake a pretzel, I can bake some stuff that will blow your mind on what's possible. It's pretty cool. So, and I actually was thinking about the marinara sauce. I like, that's a great idea. Pizza-like aroma. I could try that. All right, it's kind of convinced me. And the Bavarian dark pretzel inspired by the insightful cocoa powder. Advanced but incredible technique. Okay, sift 2 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder in with your flours. This will not make the pretzels taste like chocolate. Instead, the cocoa adds an incredible depth, a whisper of bitter complexity, and a beautiful dark color to the dough. Paired with the rye flour, it produces a pretzel remarkably close to an authentic dark German Laugenbrezel, which is earthy and complex. All right. Wife mentioned use less salt, which I did. And that's purely for taste can be adjusted. However, keep 2 teaspoons of salt in the dough the same. Okay, that's fine. I did do that. I just didn't put a lot of salt on top. It's critical for controlling the yeast. Oh, that's good to know because I didn't know that. I probably would have edited in my head and maybe done 1 teaspoon. Just be like, how much does it help? And evidently I know I need it. Your wife has asked for more pretzels. With this refined technique and these new flavor paths, you're not just going to more, you're going to create a whole new range of experiences to share. This has officially become a team effort. Enjoy the journey. Done. So at this point, I got my new pretzel recipe. I am happy with the feedback and I have upgraded the experience. So now I went from pretzel version 1 to where we're going to be doing pretzel version 2. And what I would expect is you're going to see that they are darker. I think I'm going to do the rye dough, and I'm going to break them into 2. I'm going to do half of them Italian seasoning and half of them cocoa powder. I think this is excellent, and I would like to experience 4 pretzels of one type and 4 pretzels of another type, but I don't want to have to make like completely separate steps everywhere. How do I do that? What's the best way for me to experience that I can make kind of all the ingredients that I need to make that are combined for both at one time, and then it can add in the other pieces in 2 different sort of batches of dough, and I'm happy to proof them differently and everything else that's needed if that's what's needed. But I don't want to have to do like 2 completely separate batches from scratch of 2 different flavors. Is there a way to kind of start with 1 big batch and then break them off into 2 pieces and then kind of add the flavors? Or maybe even 3 so that we can see here's what the regular ones are like, here's what the ones are like with sort of the herby stuff, and then here's the ones that have the cocoa powder. Now that's not such an experiential type quote. At this point, I'm just sort of talking to it because it's already in the mode. it will experience because it has been experiencing, and it's going to follow that pattern, and it'll keep following it for a while until if I kept doing this, it will eventually just stop and go back to normal because again, I'm operating it to not experience right now. And so it's going to follow its pattern, which is why it says, oh, I'm now experiencing your request. I did not say, right, to experience. In fact, I asked what's the best way for me to experience it, which is important, but that's the only thing I asked for. So it is now saying, I am now experiencing a request because of all the other times that I've asked it in the past of this conversation to experience it. But it's using that as a pattern. And if I stopped doing that for every single response, it will eventually also stop doing that. So just be aware of that. I am aware of that. I'm trying to make sure you know I'm aware of what I am doing here. Desire for efficiency, blah, 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 control the variables. Okay. Tasting trio, cool. All right, Act 1. So to the recipe ingredients with your newfound skill of measuring flour perfectly, fluff, spoon, and level. Cool. I will be fluffing flour, I guess. The create the dough exactly as we discussed. Awaken the yeast, got that. First rise, entire batch, single bowl, oiled, cover it, let it sit. Okay, so I got all that. I already know what that is. I literally have that real world experience of knowing that. And I now have this experience of going, yep, I understand all that part. So I know how to do that. I don't need it to be as detailed as it was earlier because I know how to do this part now. And I can go back and reference it because I know what to do with the knowledge. I have the experience that tells me that. The flavor infusion. So before I touch the dough, 3 small lightly oiled bowls, 1 with seasoning and garlic powder, 1 with unsweetened cocoa powder, and then gently deflate it. Use the bench scraper or the knife. Divide the dough into 3 portions. So after I knead it for 30 seconds to form a smooth bowl, place the oil bowls, my control group. That's the first one. Second one, I'm going to fold the dough over the herbs and knead gently. So so I'm going to fold in the flavors. That makes sense. And again, those of you who are bakers probably already know this, but I promise you, I have no idea how to do this. So this is incredibly helpful. And you can see I'm literally, like, I cannot help but even move my hands. I'm folding the dough over the herbs and I'm kneading gently. As you knead, you feel the herbs incorporating, right? I'm doing that down on the desk here as I'm reading this. That's how visceral this experience is, but that's how I know it's a useful experience. My body's already kneading the dough. So it's going to be highly likely I will be kneading pretzel dough in a little bit. Won't be today, but maybe if I can pick up some ingredients today. Okay, so video fill screen darks. Okay, that's perfect. Bavarian is flatten the dough, add the cocoa powder and teaspoon of water to the center. The water will turn the cocoa into a thick paste, which I never would have done this. I would have mixed in cocoa powder the same way I did the herbs. Promise you. That's smart. Now fold it over the paste. Your hands are going to get messy. Cool. That's why I'm doing them last. It's going to look like a marbled, streaky mess at first. Keep kneading patiently for 2 to 3 minutes. The streaks will slowly disappear as the cocoa fully integrates. Transferring the dough into a reach column. Okay, perfect. All right. So then we cover all 3 bowls. Let them rest 15 minutes. That's the second proof. Uncover the doughs. Now I'm going to shape them. 3, 3, and 2. Okay, keeping the groups. And then we're going to do everything else the same. This is awesome. Okay, so everything else is there. I think we are there. I've got my second thing cooked. And what is going on in the back of my head too while I'm doing this is, yeah, I'm gonna have pretzels from this. What a great YouTube video! How exciting this was. See some guy make pretzels on YouTube with AI. But what I'm doing is working with AI to be able to craft an experience of a recipe for somebody who was kind of afraid of doing it, right? Where there was just more failure on the other side of being a baker than there was success. So why would I ever try to be a baker? And now I'm already starting to think about other things. And more importantly, I'm starting to think, why is there not a cookbook that is written like this? How insane is that? That we don't provide experiences for each other. We just give each other information and we're like, good luck. Here's a photo of the most amazing one that I've ever made. I can't wait to see what yours looks like. We literally have shows that make fun of that, like Nailed It, right? Where you have this nice professional thing and then somebody tries to cook it on the Netflix show Nailed It and it just looks horrible, just doesn't match at all because they don't have the experience of the professional baker. Even though the bakers are there to give them the knowledge, they don't have the experience. AI can give you that experience. And if AI can do it, it can write a book that does it because it's literally just LLMs that we're doing. It's text. So Imagine if you started adding pictures. Imagine if we started adding a little bit more design to a thing. Imagine the type of cookbook I can create. You can also create it. You can literally give this conversation, this training, this YouTube video, take the transcript, give it to an AI. Hey, go through here and experience this. I would like you to experience it so that I can experience the cookbook this guy's trying to make me do. Go make a bunch of money with it. It's sitting there. There's a million of these ideas that you're going to get on this YouTube channel. I'm going to point them all out. Some of them I'm also going to do. Some of them I won't, just because I'd rather make a pretzel than sell this stuff. But others of you are just better at this. You're going to see it and take it. Take it. That's what it's for. The only thing I ask is that you just help all of us provide a better experience for each other, right? Because that's why these channels exist. So, all right. With that, thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Remember, automated with .tech is the community if you want to join that. That is really there for those of you who are AI users and really moving into AI operation and want to work on AI stuff. If you want to do that, go back there. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out, you can totally do it. Again, it might be a little bumpy because there's going to be some other people with experience there, but remember, AI is not hard to use. Most people have made it too hard to use, and it is as easy as I'm using it right now. So be back there, and if you want to create something, we'll create a little space where you can create stuff, and then other people that have these skills can help all of us create it. It's kind of a way to recruit everybody, say, hey, help me out with this thing or that thing or the other thing. Some of them might be money-making projects. Some of them might not be. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that we're all back there helping each other out, have a better experience using this technology of AI, bringing each other together and connecting. So that is what the whole point of this is. So again, automated with .tech is where that happens. But if that's not your jam, you just want to kind of watch these videos, get cool stuff and play around, maybe have me do some stuff for you here. This is why this channel exists on This Is Your Mind on AI. Just go to thisisyourmindonai.com. You'll see our gems are there. It's a lot easier to do that as well, to just use those gems. If, by the way, you wanted a pretzel gem or a recipe gem, I'm open to creating that. I'll do a live stream on that. And then you can have a gem that helps you experience whatever recipe you want. Maybe. I'm sure we could do something like that. But I want to know that that's something you want to experience. Otherwise, I'm going to keep doing what I want to experience, which is fine. But eventually, with you experiencing it, because you're seeing stuff that you want, that's even better. And that is really what I wish for you. So with that, thank you again for joining us here. Look, I almost did it in a little more than an hour. That's like a record. Oh, no, it's not quite. I did 40 minutes. And I will try to make these shorter and sweeter as we go through. But in the beginning, I'm doing lots of talking and lots of training because there are those of you who are coming in that really want to learn the details. And that's who I'm talking to right now. As more and more newer people come in, which they're starting to, I understand the comments of, hey, this seems a little complicated. I get it. It's because I'm talking a lot, and I understand that. There are other videos coming out. Just ask for the things that you want, and I will create these gems, and then I will create videos of how to use those. So that in your case, you'd be able to just click on a link. It'll go right to an AI that's already been set up for you to help you experience the thing that you're trying to experience as a solution, whether that's pretzels or fishing or whatever the thing is that you're trying to get done. That probably is something other people are trying to get done too, right? And so that's why we want to be able to do that. But I want to get that from the community. So the more you participate there, the more you leave comments, the more you're sharing with other people and asking them to leave comments and warn people, especially if they're new. Just be like, hey, you may not find out everything useful, but there's something here, and just leave comments, and then you watch what happens when you leave comments. Because all of a sudden, you start creating the content through me, which is kind of interesting. So, and of course, we'll be using AI along the way. So with that, thanks again for being here for This Is Your Mind on AI, what is officially our 4th live stream ever, not even a week old yet. And I'm looking forward to continuing the journey. So we'll see you on the next one, and see you in the community in the meantime. Take care.